and welcome to Wayside United Church of Christ. Whether you're here for a day, a season, or longer, please know that no matter who you are, and English is your second language, please know that you are welcome here, because here at Wayside we know and we believe that God's love transcends all human distinctions. So welcome. And with that in mind, Roxanne has our friendship pads, and if we'll pass those around the room. On the way back, you can see who's sharing your pew with you. Also, if you have an update on your information, that will be helpful in terms of email or phone number. And if you would like to be included in my weekly email, that would be important. There are prayer cards in the pews, and those are for if you have a joy or concern. You can put it in the prayer box following the worship service, or you can hand it to me following the service. And now, I think for our lives together, we might have some announcements. Why don't you go first? Oh, I'm going to go first. Okay, here's the story. Here's the story. My dog Daisy has been having issues. And so now she's on this very expensive diet to see if blah, 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 she's got a food allergy. So you must not feed her anything. And I will keep this if you feel you must, because she'll suck in her cheeks and look like she's starving to death. Here we are. I'll just leave this on, maybe on the table with the activity, with the postcards and posters. So then you can give her one of her very expensive. Did I say that already? Okay, there we go. That's my announcement.
For any newcomers, Daisy is your dog.
Okay, very good, very good.
And Daisy loves to beg.
Yes, she does.
All right, aside from the announcements in the bulletin, are there any other announcements?
So Seattle Pride last week was a lot of fun. Yay! If you missed it, don't worry, the fun's not over. There's still Tacoma Pride, which is in less than 2 weeks. It's on Saturday, July 14th. And we need a few people, 3 would be plenty, to come and help us hold down the UCC fort at the Tacoma Pride event. So if you are at all interested, it's Saturday the 14th, it's noon to 6. Parking will be super easy because you can park for free at the Tacoma Dome station and then take the free light rail to downtown Tacoma. So all we need is somebody to sit there and hand out tattoos. And if you are interested, please find me after service.
Thanks. Okay, anyone else?
Yay! I'm gonna come up here. Can my my search committee come up too?
Who's here?
Can you find somebody?
I can do that.
Okay.
You want this?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, hello everybody from your Wayside Pastoral Search Committee. And first, I just want to really thank everybody for their patience and support and prayers as we have gone through this process. I was thinking about it this morning. We met the first time as a search committee almost exactly a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a year of us stuck with each other. We all survived, and it's been such a joy to get to know the search committee even better, but also to do this really important work. And you may have seen this little checklist that we have that kind of has been marking our progress as we've made a profile, we've submitted it to the UCC, we've received applications, we've read through their profiles, we've conducted first round interviews, second round interviews. We had 2 neutral pulpits, so if you saw us not in church, we weren't playing hooky, we were at a different church listening to neutral pulpits for a few weeks. And so that brings us on to our next part of our checklist, is we've identified a final candidate for pastor. And we're so excited. It's this process has been so uncertain and kind of like, well, who are we going to get? Are they going to be a good fit for Wayside? Is Wayside going to be a good fit for them? And we're just so pleased with the person that we found, so we can check that box off. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, and then we kind of had to give up a little bit of control, which was hard for me at least. But we put that work in such great hands with the personnel committee and council, and they came together with the candidate and have a contract in the works, pretty almost finalized. So that is our next box. Is our governing body negotiates a compensation package with the candidate. Yeah, work that off. Okay, so now this is where all of you come in, because I need you to get out your phones, your calendars, mark your calendar for August 12th. That is when our candidate is coming here. She will preach that Sunday, and then we will meet as a church after to vote on whether we would call her to be our new pastor. So it's really important that you're here August 12th to...
And the 11th, we're going to have a potluck, right?
Yeah, so on Saturday, we'll do some kind of more informal event to introduce as well. But
so yeah, plan the whole weekend. We'll get to know her, and she'll do the service. You can have questions afterwards, and it's going to be a good weekend.
So we just wanted to update you, and so that's important. That's a really good point. Is that throughout this whole process, the confidentiality piece has been really, really important, and it still remains that way. So we can't release her name because she's currently serving in a church, and so she needs to give notice, and we don't want anything, just like if you were looking for a new job, you wouldn't want, that information needs to stay private until she's ready to announce that. So her name is private now, but if you come out August 12th, she might tell you her name. There. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, some exciting news coming. Anyone else? Anyone want to try and beat that? Okay, well, let's move on to celebrations. Do we have celebrations for July? Who wants to start? Let's start over here.
I have a brother who will turn 54 this month, and that's all my IOUs.
Okay.
My grandson Jacob McGuire will be 37 on May 19th.
My daughter Sharon's birthday is the 10th.
My oldest son will be 61 on the 29th. I have a granddaughter who has a birthday today, a great-granddaughter who has a birthday the 5th, 2 other grandchildren that have birthdays this month. And they're twins, and they'll turn 18.
Oh, wow.
And I think there's another one that
Productive day.
My Aunt Leslie is turning old on the 12th.
I have a brother-in-law who's turning 60 on the 4th.
I have a brother. My brother's turning something on the 16th, and my mom is turning something. I'm not going to say the same thing, on the 21st.
My brother's birthday is also on the 16th. Our niece Tegan turns 3 on the 9th. And our marriage turns 3 on the 18th.
There you go.
Ooh, very good.
I didn't even know.
My young wife Barb turned 76 on the 24th.
Well said.
I will be 77 on the 16th. Unfortunately, CNN is not going to cover it. They have other things that day with Putin and Trump.
Well, I'm going to follow him. I'll be 78 on the 22nd. So I will be sure and come over and make sure he gets to listen.
2 grandchildren turning happy birthdays this month.
My niece Morgan will be 14 on the 19th, which she actually shares with my grandmother, who would have been 99.
My cousin's fiance's birthday is on the 18th. My uncle has a birthday at the end of the month. And my parents are going to be celebrating their 29th anniversary on the 15th.
My sister is next oldest to me, turned 71, and she's taking everyone but me to Hawaii.
Oh, wow. Nice birthday.
Yeah.
Our daughter has a birthday on the 7th and shares it with our nephew Danny on the 7th.
Very cool.
So I'll bring an IOU to the office. I turned 50 this month.
Okay, did we get everybody? Oh, I missed somebody.
No, I almost forgot to say that.
Brian and I are celebrating 8 years of marriage on the 25th. And on Thursday, I'm turning 30.
Just a youngster, isn't it?
My birthday is July 15th.
Okay. I think that's everybody. And shall we sing our gathering song? This morning has broken. The words are in your bulletin. Will all who are comfortably able please stand and join me in the call to worship. Let us gather to ponder, worship, and celebrate
the one who hears us in our fear and sorrow.
Where there is no way,
the Holy One leads us in a new way.
Where there was no mercy,
God reveals fresh mercy.
Where there is hopelessness,
the divine invites us to step into a new dance.
And our opening hymn is in the New Century Hymnal, number 175, O Christ the Healer, we have come.
And it's not the tune of 175, the tune will be 100, and we don't know if this is going to Held or not.
Okay.
We just
All right. So we're at your 175. Okay. Please join me in the prayer of invocation. O most holy and faithful God, meet us here today and teach us to recognize the ways of life and hope into which you are leading us. May our desires become your desires, our work become your work, and our community of Wayside, the place where you are sought and found. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
You may be seated. So now let us listen to the silence of this sacred space. A space made ready for us by many hands. Amid all the noise of our lives, we take this moment to sit in silence, to give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gift of life. Let us open ourselves to living more fully, to giving and forgiving more freely, to understanding more completely the meaning of our lives. God calls us in our lives to take a risk, to be like the woman in our gospel who reaches out to Jesus for healing, or the father who risks everything, his status, his privilege, to bring Jesus to his dying daughter. And so let us consider now the places in our lives where we resist turning to God for healing and change. Please join me in the litany of confession as it is printed in your bulletin. When we resist your call to open our hearts, to allow the freshness of your grace to enter. God have mercy. When we close our eyes to your new and unexpected possibilities of healing and reconciliation. Christ have mercy. when we let fear overwhelm us and cling to the security of what we know instead of risking new steps toward wholeness and justice.
God have mercy.
Hear this very good news. God's mercies are fresh every morning. In Christ, God offers forgiving grace and welcomes us into a community of trust, abundance, and hope. So let us give thanks for the mercy of God and pass the peace of Christ in this community among us. Let us greet each other with the peace of Jesus Christ.
Peace be with
Our contemporary voice this morning comes from Langston Hughes, who was an African-American poet, a social activist, novelist, playwright, and a columnist from Joplin, Missouri. He was one of the earliest innovators of the then new literary art form called jazz poetry. He lived from 1902 to 1967. So it tells you something about this poem. Let America be America again, by Langston Hughes. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself was free. America was never America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wealth, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek, and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, and grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today despite the dream. Beaten yet today, oh pioneers. I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream. In the old world, we're still a serf to kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true. Yet, that even yet its mighty daring sings, in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned, that makes America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore, Poland's plain, and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand I came, to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me an ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on people's lives, we must take back our land again. America! Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plains. All the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
Thank you, Roxanne. On Sunday mornings, we gather together, and each one of us brings with us a tapestry of life experiences into this varied mix of our hopes and hurts, our struggles and joys. We are invited to this story in Mark's Gospel. The Gospel lesson for today involves two women in crisis. We don't know them by their names, but by their needs. Both are daughters of Abraham, so they're not outsiders, at least not to begin with. Although now they are both excluded. They are subject to the taboos around the mysterious power of life in blood and the even more mysterious power of death. Bleeding women and dead girls are meant to be avoided at all costs. Here is our lesson for today, found in the Gospel according to St. Mark, the 5th chapter, beginning at the 21st verse. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue named Jairus came, and when he saw him, he fell at his feet and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live." So Jesus went with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had. And she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. For she said, if I but touch his clothes, I will be made well. Immediately her hemorrhaging stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say who touched me? He looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. While he was still speaking, some people came from the leader's house to say, your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, do not fear, only believe. He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When he had entered, he said to them, why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping. And they laughed at him. Then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha kum, which means, little girl, get up. And immediately the girl got up and began to walk about. She was about 12 years old. At this, they were overcome with amazement, and he strictly ordered them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. Here ends our lesson. So who do you relate to in this story? Do you relate to Jairus, who now is able to celebrate life even after to all appearances everything was lost? Maybe you relate to the daughter, who is basically dead, but now is alive again and given a second life, a second chance. You relate to the hemorrhaging woman, who now has cause to celebrate and can return to full life and to her community. Maybe you actually relate to none of them. Because I know that there are some of you here today who have thrown yourselves, if you will, into the presence of Jesus for a loved one or for yourself. But the much yearned for healing that you have hoped for has not come. So after hearing this story, it's easy to wonder and ask, why not me? Why not me? Will you join me in a spirit of prayer? Oh, gracious God, help us to become masters of ourselves so that we might become the servants of others. Take our minds and think with them. Take our lips and speak through them. Take our hands and work with them, and take our hearts and set them on fire with your Spirit. I had a seminary professor who told us to remember that everyone whom Jesus healed also did one day eventually die. Jairus' daughter, if she was so blessed, she outlived her father and grew up perhaps to become a mother and grandmother herself. The hemorrhaging woman, finally declared clean, no longer shunned and excluded, was able to return to a full life in her community, able to return to relationships and connections, all of which had been denied her for 12 years. And no doubt both of them felt a deep sense of gratitude for for this gift from God. But in the end, like all of us, they, like we will, they died. So if we are to understand this gospel lesson, we need to understand it as more than just simply a miracle story about granting cures for earthly diseases. We are invited with this story to dig deeper so that we might more fully understand its message. In the story of Jairus, we're told of a man who would go to any length to get help for his daughter. And he is a person with a measure of prestige. He is, I would say, probably part of the 1%. He's respected in his community. He's probably used to having people listen to him. However, this very important person, a religious leader no less, with a precious child who is deathly ill, it has reduced him to fall into the ground in front of a traveling folk healer in a last-ditch effort to prevent the worst from happening. You know, I once read that before the scientific age, people often didn't allow themselves to get too attached emotionally to their children. Because before there were vaccines and hospitals and prenatal care, most died young. Some would hazard say that perhaps up to 60% of children die. I seem to recall you don't even have to be in before the scientific age. When I was living in the Congo, the statistic at that time in the 70s was that over 50% did not reach the age of 5. The gift of a child might have seemed too precarious to invest oneself wholeheartedly into that relationship. Yet this man could not bear to lose his little girl, even at a time also when daughters were not valued as much as sons. And by going to this preacher healer, this Jesus, who was already getting in trouble with the authorities, of which he's one of those authorities, it's interesting. And he's putting himself at risk with his colleagues. He risks being ridiculed, if not worse. And think about it, he risks missing the last few moments he has with his daughter when she's alive by rushing over to try to get Jesus to him. But his love compels him to beg. In the story of the unnamed hemorrhaging woman, we also hear of one who is so desperate she will go to all lengths to find wholeness. And for those of us who have struggled with an illness or a disability, we probably have some sense of how that does exclude us from things. But think about this about 100-fold. Because it's not that she's just unable to do something. She is shunned and separated and excluded from community and being able to do things. She certainly could not go to worship in the synagogue. She was unclean. People could not touch her. So how do you go about your life? How do you go about like getting your food on a daily basis and at the market and so on? She was untouchable. She was shunned. She was desperate. And yet even in her desperation, she does not have the courage to go to Jesus to ask him for what she needs. Rather, she believes that if she can just get close enough, perhaps some of the goodness of Jesus will also be hers. And it turns out this is so. What's fascinating to me is right there, in the midst of this exchange of the one percenter and the shunned and excluded person of the community. And that one percenter, that religious leader of the synagogue, is part of shunning that woman. He's the leader that decides who's in and who's out. In the midst of this dynamic, on the road to mercy, Jesus, to heal that little girl, Jesus, the multitasker, Jesus is interrupted by that woman. And I would think this would upset the leader of the synagogue. So how often, it makes me wonder how often in our day-to-day lives, with our agendas, how often do we get interrupted in unexpected ways? And that perhaps we find that our response to that interruption ends up being more important than our original plans. I think the story challenges us to consider our priorities and who and what gets our attention. What makes it to the top of the list? Maybe those who are the most deserving of our attention. Maybe those are the least visible ones. For Jesus, the most important thing at that moment is to face the person who has touched him and to encounter her as a real person, as a real human being, as a person deserving of respect, acknowledging her humanity. In the translation of the Bible called The Message, Eugene Peterson offers these words this way to the translation: "Daughter, you took a risk of faith, and now you're healed and whole. Live well, live blessed, be healed of your plague." Why is Mark telling us this story? The reason for this story is to give us an inkling, an insight, not just into Jesus' identity, but also tells us who God is, how God acts, and what God is like. So, Jairus is at the end of this road, and sort of like foxhole religion, he goes rushing over to Jesus as a last resort. What this tells me and tells you is that God hears us. And even when we go to God as a last resort, God, in Jesus, as revealed in Jesus, goes with us. The other thing it tells us about who God is and how God acts and what God is like is that God is about seeing us in our true humanity and with respect. And we're not to be cut off from God. No one gets cut off from God. So the question for us this day, on this 4th of July weekend, what sort of miracle would it take for us to transform our country and our systems at home and even abroad, and the hearts of people, so that first all children can rise up to new life, and two, all people who are overwhelmed with suffering and are excluded, how might they be incorporated into community? The question we need to ask ourselves is whether children who need new life and people who are excluded are outside the circle of our concern. Jesus refuses to keep himself removed from these people that we declare are unclean. This is the call of the church today, that we hear in this story that we are called to see those who need our help and to treat them all as children of God. Jesus calls us to follow in his ways. How well do you think we're doing at that? Amen. As you are able, I invite you to rise for our second hymn. And that is selection number 591, This Is My Song.
The continued generosity of God's gifts to us call for thanksgiving and generosity on our part. This church stands because of the faithful generosity of those who came before us, and its ministry grows today because of the hopeful, expectant generosity that lives in us. Let us gather our gifts together then and offer them to God in gratitude, heartfelt commitment, and praise. Will the ushers please come forward?
It's Generous God, take our gifts this day and use them so that we may be part of your great work in this world. Through our giving, bring a brighter day of justice and love, not just in our community, but in the world beyond these walls. Strengthen our church and the whole United Church of Christ, so that we grow together each day into a powerful voice for healing and peace. Amen.
You may be seated. Will you join me in a spirit of prayer? God of fresh bread and fruit of the vine, we sense your presentness among us in grace-filled moments of sharing, in carefully created communities of loving solidarity, in holy times of birthing new life amid all the suffering. We delight in the moving of your steadfast spirit, demanding that we find water for the thirsty, demanding that we prepare meals for all who hunger, and encouraging us to welcome all in our midst. Amen.
As we share this meal, may we be nourished by the dangerous memory of Jesus and his friends, who dared to feed those no one else would feed, who included the sinners that society shunned and oppressed, who drew healing energy out of people's past hope of healing, who heard the cries of people dried up and desperate, and nourished them with living water and life-giving bread. This daring community uplifted the power of justice and righteousness. This daring community embraced those who were searching, longing, and aching for acceptance and love.
The gospel tells us that on the night that Jesus was betrayed, and according to the rules of hospitality and meal customs, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and looking at his friends, passed the bread to them, and all of them ate.
The bread symbolized human lives interconnected with other human lives, and the power of giving and receiving.
Jesus also took the cup, and after giving thanks, he passed the cup to his friends, and all of them drank of it.
We remember the death and life of Jesus, and the many committed, faithful people, then and now, who have kept alive the dangerous memories of fresh bread, the cup, and living water, prepared, shared, and blessed for all.
Let us pray. O gracious God, consecrate by your Holy Spirit these gifts of bread and cup. May our lives give birth to your healing power in us and among us, that turns water into wine, bare tables into feast, outsiders into beloved friends. Together may we make all things new. Together may we make your presence real in and around us. Amen. This is the bread of compassion and hope. This is the cup of blessing and new life. These are the signs of love. For the community of hope, let us share this meal together. Today, communion is by intinction, and that is the dipping of the bread in the cup. In the small bowls, we have a gluten-free option, and in the cup there is grape juice, so all may partake. Come, for all things are ready. The gifts of God for the people of God.
Please join me in the prayer of thanksgiving. Divine presence in all of life, we give thanks for the gifts of love that reaches into our hearts, for the refreshment of this food that renews us, for the memories of Jesus and his passion for justice and truth. May we be awakened to live faithfully and boldly with deep compassion and integrity. And now, as we have been taught, we are bold to say, Our Father,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
I invite you to rise for our final hymn. It is selection number 594, How Beautiful Are Spacious Skies.